without question, the most stressful reading experience of my life. The bodies are no longer stacked pretty high anymore. They are nailed to trees and impaled in nice straight lines. They are losing heads and other limbs to violent mobs and dying from radiation on a war-torn planet. The solar system is now but a wasteland of the dead. And Darrow has swift become king of those ashes. The Red Rising series for me has always been this fascinating treatise on consequences of one's actions. It was something that I loved from the first book. From the very first book, Darrow has had to navigate the fallout, whether large or small, of every single choice he's made in the wake of Eo's death. And the massive choice to, break the Empire and the society, as morally right as we know it to have been as the objective reader. It's having some pretty disastrous and extremely bloody, far-reaching consequences, most of which I'd wager Darrow and the rest of his cadre of allies could never have anticipated, or at least not to this degree. A good chunk of this novel, what almost felt like half of this novel overall, is spent almost languishing in the bloodshed upon Mercury. This is a battle, it's almost its own war, with really heavy costs. We've always known this. We've always known in this series war is not glorious. It is cruel. It is brutal. It is inexorably horrific. We lose people we love as well as people we hate. We lose people we never even knew we cared about. And it's horrible. It's pretty horrible. But it's also wildly compelling. Pierce Brown does what filmmakers like Michael Bay wish they could do, which is compelling, large-scale action and slaughter in the chaos of battle. And why? Well, because with Pierce Brown, there's a purpose to all of this. Oscar Wilde once famously wrote that everything is about sex, except sex. Sex is about power. And I'd like to posit, really, that the same applies to action and or war within a story. All of it is about power, and also the undercurrents between the players involved. Usually about power in some way. It's sex, but with guns and ships and weather robot things. It's a pretty crazy battle. And Pierce Brown delivers a masterclass in how to write this within the Battle for Mercury. The Battle for Mercury for me is also very interesting because whatever anybody's feelings towards Lysander, personally, I kind of pitied the kid in Iron Gold, didn't agree with almost any of his decisions, but really felt sorry for him. His transformation through this war, through his experience on Mercury, is a pretty terrible wonder to behold. He was a young man who was seeking to find himself and where he fit in this kind of chaotic new world. And as we saw in Iron Gold, he sees no place for himself, and thus he decides to join up with those who wish that society of old, that empire that we broke, and which benefited almost exclusively them, to return. He says, well, this new world isn't working. Let's go back to what we knew worked. For us, at least. And yet, in experiencing on Mercury, really the full force and extent of Darrow's, by this point practically fabled, rage and wrath, especially upon the battlefield, Lysander ends up morphing and having to evolve into a new, even more terrifying creature, because now he's seen the extent to which his enemy will go to achieve victory. He's seen just how pyrrhic a victory Darrow will incur, because he will not lose. And it could cost everything and everyone, but he will not lose. He's like a juggernaut that doesn't stop. But Lysander, in experiencing this and in transitioning and evolving, he makes his own journey towards becoming kind of his own kind of monster. He views Darrow as something like a monster, a demon. And it's like, you're becoming one of your own. You're like a hybrid of like old school Cassius and the Jackal, because he's damn smart. Actually, speaking of Cassius, knew it. Freaking knew it. Always wait for the body. Pierce Brown always gives us a body. He's like obsessed with giving us a body. Normally because something terrible has been done to the body, so like we always get a body. Or body parts. At least. Also, I gotta say, Diomedes is now infinitely more interesting than he already was, and I kind of hope he's explored in more depth in the 6th book, because I like him. Side note, please don't kill him. Please. Though to be fair, as much as we spend a lot of time on Mercury, Dark Age is not all outright military conflict. There's a whole bunch of political machinations going on as well, and thank you, Pierce Brown, for Mustang's POV. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I have wanted her POV for ages now, and holy crap, wow, was it so worth it, because Mustang's brilliant. She's arguably the smartest character in the series. Actually, probably not even arguably, she is the smartest character in the series. And that's why her fall and that horrific bloody takeover of the Solar Republic is all the more shocking and felt all the more keenly, because we know how smart she is. We also know how good her intentions have been. And it's even more worse when we find out who was behind the insidious destruction of the Solar Republic. Yeah, I honestly still don't know how to process that twist. Like, I'm not mad at it, but I just didn't see it coming. I mean, now that I've sat and looked back upon it, there's definitely signs for a good chunk of it. Like, the signs were there. But damn, talk about shifting the fucking paradigm and then upending the whole table. It feels so chaotic. Yet it's a controlled chaos. And it's chaos that's been so cleverly engineered and orchestrated and manufactured that it's only once you start really looking harder and deeper that you realize it's in fact diabolically genius. It's not chaos at all. And there's only one character who could be that terrifyingly smart. You also see just how smart, terrifyingly smart, this character is when you spend time in Ephraim's story with the Obsidians kind of on their home. And I gotta say, Ephraim, I love him. I loved his storyline. It was so interesting to spend time with the Obsidians because they're kind of unintentionally hilarious at times. I told a friend, I said, it's like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy meets Space Vikings. That's the Obsidians, because everything is taken very literally, but they are also very kind of Nordic Viking inspired, I think. It's the vibes I get. And they are fascinating. It's great to see them explored in more depth, to give them more colors and shades and learn so much about them. And when you're doing it with Ephraim, who's honestly been one of the most well actualized and fully realized and just very complicated characters since his introduction in Iron Gold, it's all the more fun. Now with Ephraim, kind of like with Lysander, I've never always agreed with his decisions, but I understood where they came from. His grief and his rage was always very palpable and comprehensible. Like, given the events of his life and the things that he's witnessed post the Rising, you get why he's extremely disillusioned, bitter, and kind of a jackass. So having him be the person that Sephi brings in to train her warriors essentially in the art of deception, which is honestly a terrifying concept, Obsidians with the knowledge and aptitude for deception. Yeah, that's really scary. We get to experience culture shock of what are space Vikings, very brutal space Vikings, with their own rules and their own legends and ghost stories and demons and mythology that turns out to be something horrifyingly real to a degree. Again, that character I said is terrifyingly smart. He knows just what to play with and how to manipulate it to get people to almost dance like puppets on strings and do what he wants. So in this book, these dead, kind of dark ghosts of the past have all risen up from the dead to haunt our protagonists, except it's more like haunting via death and destruction and the complete dismantling of an admittedly flawed machine from the inside out, and not like, boo. This is an extremely stressful reading experience. I'm gonna make what might be a bold claim here and say that not only is Dark Age the best installment in this saga since Golden Sun, it's absolutely on par with that novel. Might even be a bit better. I'm honestly not sure, because where Golden Sun was kind of like the Iliad brought to a future space opera age, Dark Age is like some kind of Oresteia on crack with more drama than Aeschylus would ever want to imagine. Dark Age is overall this clattering gong of consequence just now ringing out and echoing across the solar system, because the road to hell has been paved with over a decade of good intentions. So now we're dancing with the devils. Gods help us.
Thanks for watching me ramble today. If you'd like to see more from me, go ahead and click that button with my face on it. It'll take you to my channel, where I ramble about a whole lot of different things. Got some thoughts of your own? Go ahead and leave them down in the comments. And make sure that if you want to see more ramblings from me, you click that little subscribe button. That's it for me today, you guys, so until next time, cheers.